Hey everybody, welcome to the Geek Generation. I'm your host, Rob Logan, joined in the studio once again by Matt West.
Oh, we're talking movies today.
We're talking movies, we're talking
TV.
Video games, we're talking TV. Granted, we always talk about those things, but today is extra special because this is our 2015 in review episode. We're going to go through all the things that kind of consumed our time in those categories over the course of 2015. And eventually, we will get to my top 10 movies of 2015. I do the top 10 list every year, watch a ton of movies in preparation for it, and I will reveal to you the ones that you should watch. Granted, you might have different taste in movies than me, but I assume if you listen to this show, you take my opinion into consideration somewhat, but we will see for sure when we get there. I have first video games. Do you want to kick off with some of the ones that you played last year?
Unless they were phone-based, I'm not a big video game player.
Really?
I unfortunately, my work schedule and demands and school that I was involved in just didn't give me that kind of time. So,
Sure.
You know, it was basically Angry Birds 2, Peggle, Tri-Peak Solitaire, and last year, yeah, really not a big gamer. I was on for a little while. I was on the DC public. It's like an
DC Universe Online.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and I played that for a while, but I don't game like y'all.
Well, that's okay, because last year was probably one of the most diverse years in gaming that I ever had. Over the last few years, we have been getting more and more requests from independent game developers asking us to review their games. We've even gone so far as to this year, the end of last year, beginning of this year, I've launched kind of an outreach program. I don't know if that's what I should call it necessarily, but I've tapped a group of people online who we're all working together as a group now to review games for the Geek Generation. So as I get more and more codes in, I'm able to give those to more people. So you're going to see even more game reviews come up both on the podcast and on the website. Not all of the games that we review we talk about on the show, because some of those people are not on the podcast, but you can go over to thegeekgeneration.com to see all of their reviews as they come up. So to go through some of the games that I played last year, I played Dragon Ball Xenoverse, which was wonderfully sent to me by Namco Bandai. Really appreciate that. Fun game. It was great to play a Dragon Ball game. It'd been a long time since I played a Dragon Ball game. I think the one previous to that was maybe like Budokai Tenkaichi 3, which was PS2, I think. I don't know if I really played that many Dragon Ball games on the PS3. But Dragon Ball Xenoverse was a fun game. Kind of tapered off with it. I believe I did a full review a while back, but that's something that consumed quite a bit of time. That's when I first started dabbling in streaming on Twitch. I wasn't really familiar with the whole process of it. I just knew that my PS4 could. So I started streaming some stuff and maybe had only a couple people watching, but really not that many. I played Don't Starve a lot. Got into that last year. If you guys haven't played that, it's a fun survival game. You basically last as long as you can, but the penalty is permadeath. There's no like respawn necessarily. You can find things that will respawn you maybe once over the course of a game, but after pouring hours and hours and hours into one playthrough, you die and you're dead. So that happens, and you just have to start over. We've since seen Don't Starve Together come out, which is fun because it's a multiplayer version of the game where you can play with your friends. And also within recent months, we've seen the DLC for Don't Starve Shipwrecked come out, which now is a different whole play mode entirely, where you can now sail between different islands, and it has a whole different mechanic going on. It's very difficult. The game's always tricky anyway, but in Shipwrecked, there's like they introduced poison, so a snake can bite you, or there's a few different ways to get poisoned, and the only way to make an antidote for the poison is to kill something that would poison you to get a component to build the antidote. So you run the risk of getting poisoned to get the thing you need to stop yourself from being poisoned. So it's like you get poisoned, you're dead, and it sucks because it can come out of nowhere after so much time invested, but I digress. I played through the entirety of Mark of the Ninja, this year, which was a fun indie game. It came out years ago, but it was from the same people who made Don't Starve Cry Entertainment, and it's a side-scrolling stealth-based game. So you use all your ninja skills climbing up walls, you use smoke bombs, you hang from stuff, you use grappling hooks, and you kind of traverse your way around these levels. Killing is super satisfying because there's wonderful animations for it. Really, really fun game there. Highly recommend that one. I think it's even cheaper now too because it came out a few years ago. So if you guys want to check that out, it's on multiple consoles and platforms as well. Got into Rocket League last year. Rocket League's a good time. That is a real good time. It was a PlayStation Plus free game 1 month. So I got Rocket League for free. Played it on the PS4, reconnected with some old friends playing Rocket League. Randomly started playing with one of my friends who I hadn't seen in a while. He just added me to a party on PS4 at one point, and then he introduced someone else into the party, which was a friend of mine from high school who I probably haven't talked to in like 4 or 5 years. And all of a sudden, we're all playing Rocket League together. So I was like, "Damn, this is great." So not only are we playing an amazing game together, which I'm the worst at out of the 3 of us, but reconnecting with old friends, which is always fun to do, and especially unexpectedly. So yes, you can connect out in that virtual space sometimes. But highly recommend Rocket League if people have never played that. Fantastic. The Binding of Isaac, I talk about so much. I feel like I talk about so much. I stream it a lot still. We've seen the original release of Binding of Isaac. We saw Rebirth come out, which was kind of a completely recoded and reskinned version of the original game. It's a little more pixel looking. The original game was created in a Flash animation, so they had to completely script it over again to build the game for consoles. And they added a lot in Rebirth, but now we've also seen The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth released, which is a DLC, which adds so much more into the game. I felt like it was already expansive like crazy anyway, but they expanded it even more. I still could play that game endlessly. It is so much fun. In a game where it takes you maybe a half hour to 45 minutes for a playthrough, and sometimes a little longer now that I'm getting better at it, and I can make it further and further, and I still can complete a run successfully within like an hour and 10 minutes. And it's procedurally generated and different every single time you play. That's endlessly entertaining. The replay value is huge. A new game, yeah. Absolutely. So I'm still learning more about it because there are new power-ups being unlocked all the time, and you learn about the way things work together with each other. I've seen the hour counts that people have poured into this game, and it is ridiculous. Like, I'm still an amateur when it comes to it, and I play a lot. So still pretty great, though. Lego Marvel Superheroes was gifted to me by Paulo last year for either, was it my birthday, I think? Yeah, I think it was either Christmas or my birthday. I don't remember which one, but it was one of them. And I played the crap out of that. I'm still not done with it. I have to jump back into it, but I've gotten distracted by so many other things too that I've wanted to play other games as well, and obviously I have. I mean, this is halfway through my list of the stuff I played last year, but any Lego game is fantastic. I know Lego Marvel's Avengers is out right now, and I will get around to that eventually too. Like I said earlier, last year was kind of my embrace of Twitch and use of that. I mean, we're on Twitch right now doing the podcast live for people listening. We have the new bedtime story series launching on Twitch already. We've already started with that. And just gaming on Twitch has expanded like the possibility of what we can do with the Geek Generation. It's all very exciting stuff, and it's stuff I wish I had more time and money to do and spend on it. I do want to continue to expand it and kind of treat it like a TV station where we can do all sorts of different things. And eventually, hopefully, we will get to a point where we're just doing so many different things on the Twitch channel. I look forward to where we go with that. But it also allowed me to access a few different kind of community games that I had never played before. One of which was Quiplash, which I know you played with us a little bit before. Yeah. Where we, it's basically the Cards Against Humanity idea of a couple, there's a prompt shows up, you give your answers, and I love just the community interaction with that game.
Yeah, those are, I mean, that's all kind of back to that premise of that apples to apples game originally, and but that's tremendously fun when you get different personalities, especially when you allow people to argue for their logic on why they gave it. You can add that as another whole aspect of the game that ends up being a ton of fun.
Totally. Things like the metagame and Super Fight.
Yeah.
We haven't played Super Fight on the podcast yet. I do have it. It's something we'll do eventually. I'm looking forward to it. And we've only played the metagame, I think, once. I'd love to play that again on the podcast. So lots more things that we can do with those. Choice Chamber is also a game that we played on Twitch, especially when I first started streaming and started building an audience. People really enjoyed watching Choice Chamber. It's kind of petered off now. I feel like I've kind of done everything in the game that I can do. And it doesn't, it takes a lot of computer resources to play for a game that is kind of small in graphic scale and kind of just everything that's going on. I don't know why it takes so many resources. If they were to rebuild it a little bit, I think they could do a better job with it. But unfortunately, the state it's in right now, it's not a game really worth replaying over and over again. And the popularity of it on Twitch has kind of dropped away too. And I think that's in response to the game itself. There's only so much you can do. But when people are able to affect your game by inputting things in the chat room, I think that's something we're going to see more and more of as Twitch becomes more popular. I love these community games. I love to be able to go on and play something where I'm not just doing commentary and talking to the people in the chat room. They're actually invested and involved with the game itself. So much fun to do that. Game of Thrones, a Telltale game series. This was a blast. I played through pretty much the entire game in the course of a week. Every night I did one episode. I think there's 6 or 7 episodes of it. Each one takes about 2 to 2.5 hours to play through. I did a full review a while back on the podcast, but what a great experience for anybody who watches Game of Thrones. It gives you a whole nother chapter from the point of view of another house in the things that you've seen in the series, and even bringing in those actors to provide voices again. And it's wonderfully, wonderfully done game. Highly recommend that. Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor was a game that was actually purchased for me by Dez in my Twitch stream. One of my viewers, a loyal viewer, who got Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor for me off my Amazon wish list. I'd wanted to play this for so long. What a great game.
Cool.
What a great game. It's rare that a licensed property becomes such a good game.
Right.
The year that it was out, though, I remember so many places awarding it like Game of the Year,
right,
for what it is. And now, granted, it is not the most original thing in design. Like, it has the combat you could compare to Arkham, the Arkham series. It has a lot of stealth and movement elements that you could compare to the Assassin's Creed series. But it doesn't just rip them off. It still does them well, which is important. And it also introduced the, I forget exactly what it's called. God, there's like a revenge mechanic. So I forget the exact name. Nemesis system. That's it. The Nemesis system allows you to become more familiar with big enemies in the game. They all have names. If someone kills you, they're marked. You can kill them back later on when you respawn. That's cool. They're marked as a revenge target. You can go back after them. You get more points if you kill a revenge target. There's a whole hierarchy in the army. There's so much to do in this game. I recently completed the storyline and all the side missions pretty much. I still have 2 DLCs that I can go through. Very excited to get to those too. But wow, that game was a ton of fun. It was just as good as I expected it to be. And then lastly, Fallout New Vegas. I still have not put in my PlayStation.
Dog meat is waiting for you.
He's waiting. Well, Fallout 4 is out now, and I still have not played Fallout New Vegas at all. And one of these years, maybe I'll get to it.
You know, it's one of the things.
But it wasn't last year.
It kills me listening to episodes where you and Volpe and Paul, who are really the big gamers, kind of, and Damien, talk about all these games that pop up and that you guys have been playing. And if I had the bandwidth, I know. I mean, like just hearing about like some of the stuff that's going on in the Lego games, where they're bringing like Doctor Who into it, and
sure,
I'm so like a sucker for that stuff. And if I had more bandwidth, I'd be right there. It's just I know what my time is, and I know that I could easily, and I have in the past, I'm one of those gamers who could 3 hours is gone.
Sure.
And I can't
sure.
bandwidth wise give up in as much as it would feel productive getting, hey, I made it through 3 episodes. That's not productive for me at this point in time.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, I unfortunately can't do that at this time.
I mean, there's always the excuse of needing to do it for the podcast. I
Yeah,
use that
yeah.
as an excuse for so much stuff.
I call things mental health. Oh, I had a really bad day. I need to decompress for a bit.
And then if you go on Twitch, it becomes even more of an excuse because
Right.
now I'm doing it for other people and
Yeah.
they're like tipping me to play and stuff. It's so
It's
weird.
bringing income.
Yeah, it's for my income, man. That was pretty much all the video games that I got through, though. So let's start talking about TV. What shows did you consume in 2015?
Now, see, that's where I decompressed, and that's where a lot of my bandwidth went.
Yes.
Walking Dead, I'm one of I got in a couple, maybe just after the first season, I went back and watched and have been an episode per episode viewer of that. Game of Thrones, up to speed with that one. I'm to the point now where I just have to wait for new episodes. I've spoken many times about The Blacklist. Love that show. Better Call Saul, The Muppets. I've been from the get-go been back into it. All of the Greg Berlanti stuff, Arrow, The Flash, Into the Badlands. I did watch all of the Heroes reboot, Heroes Reborn.
As did I.
Enjoyed it. I didn't think it was as strong as season 1 of Heroes.
No.
And towards the
few
end,
shows are.
No, and towards the end of, until it started picking up in the very last, there was a lull. The last couple episodes before the real drive to the end, I almost started losing interest. And I wasn't surprised that it didn't get picked back up.
No, me neither.
It wasn't strong enough, and the heroes weren't the big heroes weren't strong enough. You know, the ones who the two who were supposed to be Claire's kids.
Yeah, there was no
They
Peter
weren't strong.
Petrelli
No.
or Hero. Hero was there, but he wasn't our hero.
Right, he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't there enough to be important. Into the Badlands, I saw later on, but Blind Spot was a newer show, and that was tremendous. Gotham. I do watch a small amount of reality shows. I'm not crazy about reality shows, but Face Off is one that I really enjoy. That's the one.
That's the makeup competition. Sure,
it's really good. MasterChef Junior. I love MasterChef Junior. Actually, I like the kids even more than I like the adults.
Okay,
I do watch Hell's Kitchen, but to see these little kids who are like 7 and 8 years old cooking like French cuisine. And it's spot on. It's
yeah.
I'm lucky my cooking's getting better, but I'm
See, I'd probably get into those shows. I never really thought about watching cooking shows.
I mean, MasterChef is really pretty entertaining. But then lately, and like it's really kind of gone from the end of last year to the beginning of this year. They had the most recent MasterChef Junior was awesome. They had the 2 girls who went to the finals were both 8 years old.
Oh wow!
And they're cooking like one was from Louisiana, and she learned to cook by going out in the backyard with her dad and catching crawfish and making fresh crawfish etouffee. You know, so it was awesome. And then they got kid personalities, so they still are kids.
Right.
But, you know,
right.
and then the girl who faced her was like this little tomboy girl who wore her baseball cap backwards the whole time, and she wanted to open a bakery called Batter Up Bakery because she loves softball and baking.
That's adorable.
Totally adorable. And the kids are awesome.
Yeah.
But for major shows, I did I don't know if you've seen Steve Austin's Broken Skull Challenge.
I have not.
It's pretty good, and my wife likes it better than I do. It's just basically they say it's the Broken Skull Ranch, but he's just got this in the middle of the desert. They set up challenges, and they're very very primal. And they'll start off with like 8 people, and they'll whittle them down until one finally wins, and then they get to go through this big obstacle course. But the temperature's always like 90 degrees, and it's like CrossFit stuff. Like
okay.
They'll have like a tire that's 350 pounds, and you need to flip it for 100 yards and then lift it up and put it onto like a post and then sprint to some. And it's always 1-on-1. And then like the final challenge goes to the way they break down to, they have to basically, it's like sumo. They go through this big exhaustive challenge, and it's 1-on-1 pushing each other out of this ring.
Oh, wow.
And then you have to go on to this.
So it's a game show format more than a reality show?
Yeah. And it really is just, there's no, it's not like cut. They have interviews with people, but it's not like, all right, so they're back in the house.
Okay. Oh, great.
And
that's so much better.
And then what they do is the format is when they go to the obstacle course, they had somebody from each season who is their champion. Every time you beat the best time, you get $10,000. If somebody after you fails to, every time they fail until your time's beat, you get their $10,000. So they had one guy who made it through the first almost 3 seasons. He had like, because they alternate men's week, women's week. So he had like $70,000. At the end of a season, they'd revise the course and let him run the new time. And so it's like each week you kept bringing these same old guys back, and they would be there just watching to see if somebody beat their time.
Wow.
And like, it's crazy because like the last thing they do is climb like a 25-foot rope to ring a bell. But it's after this crazy amount of just strenuous, horrible things.
Sure.
And like to see these people who are like so like jacked up, or this guy's like, I won 100 CrossFit competitions or whatever. And like they get halfway up the rope and you're seeing them and they just slide down.
Yeah,
it's like, and you can feel the
so
heartbreak.
defeating.
And it's shot really cool.
Would you say it's comparable to like an American Ninja Warrior or something like that? Or
yeah, but it's gritty. Not
okay.
It's like American Ninja Warrior is very like futuristic, the way all the obstacles.
Yeah.
This is like they're carrying like sandbags and dragging chains and up a hill, and
I can see why Stone Cold is involved. Sure.
It's very cool. I'm still on with Family Guy. Enjoy that. Supergirl, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter. Superhero stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. Decent list of stuff.
it's nice to say so many different superhero things in this day and age.
I know, and they're all good. They're not cheesy.
So nice. TV for me in 2015, I finally jumped on the Game of Thrones train last year and consumed everything that we've had available up until now. So really, really enjoying Game of Thrones. Very excited for it to come back. Partially excited and partially worried that I'm going to be watching in real time with everybody else, because now I actually have to be careful of spoilers and things.
Yeah.
Whereas I had seen some spoilers, but when you don't really care about a show, they kind of just go through you.
Yeah.
Like it didn't really matter. And admittedly, knowing some of this stuff, it still didn't ruin the experience for me whatsoever. It was still a really, really good show, even though I knew kind of the major big beats that were going to happen, to the big twists where everybody went nuts. But really, really good show. Very happy I finally jumped on that one. Agent Carter season 1 we got last year. Season 2 is running right now. There's some talk that this will be the end of Agent Carter, which is very disappointing to hear.
Well-written show.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
And I think it's even stronger than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is kind of, Carter is like the mid-season fill-in.
I think it's because it's more consistently good.
Yeah.
You know, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will have a couple good episodes and some boring or some lulls.
Yep.
Whereas Agent Carter, because it's a short run, it's like just a good, strong show the whole way through.
Yeah. And I 100% think that Edwin Jarvis and Peggy Carter are one of the best on-screen duos.
They're so entertaining together.
In years.
Yes.
Their chemistry is so phenomenal. And I could just listen to them banter back and forth all day long.
Yep.
Not since Mulder and Scully have we gotten that kind of like banter quality out of characters that is just so pitch perfect.
Every now and again, you'll get every 3 or 4 episodes, they'll throw in Howard Stark, and he throws a good little curveball here.
And he belongs right in the mix.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so wonderful.
Awesome.
I love that. I adore that show so much.
Awesome.
It's so good. Daredevil we got last year. We got the kind of launch of the Netflix Marvel universe.
Good.
Daredevil was absolutely phenomenal. We never got around to doing a full episode on Daredevil, unfortunately, but it doesn't mean we can't at some point, because I would gladly rewatch it.
So good.
And then Jessica Jones to follow up with that.
I was like, there's no way it's going to be better than Daredevil. And arguably it was. They were both awesome experiences.
It was amazing. I've said that while I think Jessica Jones might be the better show, I enjoyed Daredevil more just because it was a little more superhero-y.
Yeah.
And that's what I dig. But I'm very much looking forward to season 2 of Daredevil, which is right around the corner. It's literally within like a month.
Looking really good. I mean, you're definitely going to get John Barenthal in there as the Punisher. And as soon as at first it sort of, when I saw he was released as the Punisher, it took me like a second, because I was, you think about what the Punisher looks like, and then instantly I thought about his face, and he's got that nose that looks like it's been broken. And it was perfect. And Elektra will be there. So, I mean, you're going to have both those characters as major people. I was hoping there would be more with the Kingpin, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be in this. But
it's possible.
He's in jail right now.
There's plenty of time.
He's serving time.
My biggest adjustment, I think, is going to be getting used to seeing him in the suit.
Yeah.
Because I am, as much as at first I was like, oh, I don't know about this black bandana. Like it felt so appropriate.
It was very
for
raw,
the world.
very dark. It was cool.
And it was almost jarring when he got in the actual Daredevil costume, and it almost felt a little too corny. So I'm wondering if, I'm sure I'll adjust, but it's going to be an adjustment, I think, seeing the costume for a while. Mr. Robot last year, good God, if people are not watching Mr. Robot, I know I'm not the only one who praises this show. It's critically acclaimed all over the place. At first I was watching just because it was about technology and because Christian Slater was in it. I love Christian Slater. But wow, what an amazing ride Mr. Robot is. Very much looking forward to more of that.
I derailed a couple times, but I've watched 3 or 4 episodes. And it just again, my bandwidth throws a curve. And I don't, but what I've seen of it's awesome.
Yeah, it's
really
very, very
good. I can see why you raved about it. It's cool. It's very cool.
Very cinematic. Like even the way that they work the title in and it's so good. I love it. Sense8, I watched last year. That was another Netflix series. I'm watching a lot of Netflix stuff. And
they're putting out great stuff,
and they just don't have the same limitations. It's so nice to see shows that are not structured for commercials. Where they really just feel like I can really get into that world instead of my brain going, oh, this is where there was, even though I don't watch commercials because it's not, you can fast forward and everything. But just your brain knowing that, oh, here's the commercial break and now we're coming back from a commercial break. But seeing something just seamless and fluid like that, oh, I would so much. Is so different.
It's a different pacing when you don't have to worry about a commercial.
I wish networks could find a different system for it. I know it's probably more profitable to have them interrupting a show throughout, but if they could do a block at the beginning and a block at the end, what a world it would be. What a world. So Sense8, highly recommend people watch that. I think I mentioned it when I first talked about it. There's a slow burn at the beginning of Sense8, but then it picks up, and when it does, you're so invested in those characters that you really, really care about what happens to them. Into the Badlands, like you mentioned, my only downside to that I mentioned a couple weeks ago when I complained that there were only 6 episodes in season 1, which is kind of the best complaint I guess you can have for something.
Leave them wanting more.
Yeah.
That's what they always say about shows.
Boy, do I.
Yeah.
Boy, do I. As far as new shows, I only watched 2. Or, no, that's not entirely true. I gave a chance to a lot. I dropped off of the Muppets. I've only watched a couple episodes of Blind Spot so far. I plan on watching more. I am enjoying the 2 or 3 episodes I've seen. I plan on watching Limitless. My goal or my plan has been to rewatch the movie first, but it's so hard for me to rewatch stuff I've already seen because I feel like I always need to be moving forward and consuming new things. But I do plan on rewatching Limitless and then watching the series because I want it to all tie together properly in my brain. I did watch Heroes Reborn, like you said, finish that. And I'm watching Supergirl, and that's pretty much the only new show I'm still with is Supergirl.
I think what TV over the last 2 years especially has shown, because of the investments that Hollywood is making into the quality of the casts, the writing, and the actual cinematography of them, movies for the first time in, I think, many, many years are at the disadvantage.
I think so, too.
When you watch TV, there was a vast difference between the experience of a television show, whether it was episodic or not, and seeing a movie like, oh, we're going to go see this great superhero movie, and in 2.5 hours, we're going to get a great superhero story. Well, that's great, but we can tell it to you with pretty close quality comparability, and we're going to give you 13 hours or 22 hours. And we're going to be able to tell a better story because we can actually develop our villains.
Exactly.
And it's like, it feels like the television experience over there are still movies that are must-see movies, and it happens, and those are going to always be events. But even, and more so than the last 2 years, but maybe the last 5 or 6 years, even going back to like when they started with like 24, I was a big fan of Lie to Me, shows that are just, the cast are so good. You're getting these guys who are traditionally movie actors, who are now men and women who are movie actors, who are now playing these like, oh, I'm going to take, TV's not taboo. It used to be, if you were a Hollywood actor, going to TV was the kiss of death for your movie roles.
Totally.
Because it was a step down. But you looked at guys like John Lithgow. He went for movies. He did, Third Rock from the Sun, but then he was even in the season of Dexter. But he'll go right back up and he can do movies.
Totally.
That up and down movement. It's not
becoming very fluid,
and
now.
It's made TV so much better. Now with this whole ability of releasing a whole season in one shot, and you can binge watch it at your own pace.
Yep.
TV is real. I mean, I think it's one of the main reasons why I haven't gone to the movie. I saw more movies this last year than I had in previous years, but I think one of the reasons is there's so many good experiences just there,
Absolutely.
And great storytelling.
I think in reference to the binge watching aspect, I think there's something to be said for not having that mid-season break where you not only get everything at once, but there's no waiting in between. I would think that's also beneficial for the cast of the show. You get it all done at once and it's done, and that season's done and it's out, and you don't have to then go back and film more and prepare for the rest of the season and all that stuff. Like I will take the 13 episodes of Daredevil or Jessica Jones over the 18 to 20 Flash or Arrow ones that we're going to get, because so much forethought was done to make that season a cohesive, fluid story. There's no filler in between whatsoever. It's simply what it is.
Right. And I sometimes don't think about how while you're still watching the season, they're still producing. Like it's not like you said.
Yeah.
So when you heard that Kevin Smith would be directing an episode of The Flash, he was raving about that. It wasn't that long ago that he raved about the first series 1 finale.
Right.
And then and then Jay Muse's wife then gets talking and says, "Hey, would you like Kevin to direct an episode?" They were like, "Sure, we'd love it." That hasn't happened yet, or he's in the process of doing it, but we're going to see that episode this season.
Right.
That to me, that timeline continuity is weird.
It is strange, yeah. But even though that's the continuity that we've had for so long, like this whole binge watching model is so new.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. Moving on from TV, before we get into movies, just a couple quick miscellaneous things that are geeky in nature that I thought I should bring up. I had mentioned a couple games earlier, the Metagame and Super Fight, that we would get around to playing on the podcast eventually. But also a game from this year that we really enjoy is The Resistance. I finally got to play that. It requires at least 5 people to play, so it's a hard thing to organize this day and age when it's hard to get a group of people together to do stuff. But The Resistance, if you've never played that tabletop game, is one of the most high tension games that is endlessly fun and will challenge your friendships with people while also just being an amazing time. So if you've never played The Resistance, I recommend you look for it. I'll link to it in the show notes if people want to buy it that way through Amazon. Give it a try. You will not be disappointed. It is so much fun. Also, last year, it's rare that a technology comes out that you think of as a life changer in some way because it actually restructures your habits or your ways of doing certain things. The last one for me was like when I first got my iPod Touch, but even before I got iPhones or anything, that was kind of like a life-changing device for me and a game changer. And it had been a while since I had an experience of getting some sort of kind of game-changing technology. But I think the Amazon Echo was one of those things for me with the way it's become a part of my daily routine. And I know you have one too. So I don't know if now that we've had them for a while, what is your experience been like with it?
Mine's more, mine most usually is used as a Bluetooth speaker, not a Bluetooth, but a streaming speaker.
Yeah.
Because Amazon Music is so awesome. Just through skimming it, there's so much music that's available, and because it's a subscription system, the artists aren't getting. It's not like you're ripping music in. It's not piracy. They're getting paid for their spins.
Exactly.
I have in short order. I don't know how it happened so quickly. I have like 12,000 songs in my Amazon Music account.
Oh my God.
And it's awesome because I've set up playlists, and now my wife's super big on it. So she has like her Pandora radio hooked into it. And so that's really where it has been most used. But there's always like the little functional things that come up. They have like new games and stuff. My nephew, who is going to be 4 soon, thinks it's the funniest thing. We have the remote, and he loves the Simon Says. So it repeats him. So he thinks that that's hilarious, and it'll say what he wants it to say. I haven't used it as much as I thought for. I mean, we'll ask it questions now and again for looking for information. I haven't used it for like the shopping list and stuff like I thought I would. But I definitely never regret getting it. It's really cool.
Yeah.
The only thing that is weird is, do you see that it now and again will pick up things in ambient noise where it thinks it's been cued and talks out of nowhere?
Very rarely. But I also don't have a lot of ambient noise in my house.
We have, well, ours is because we have an open floor plan. We actually literally have it on a little piece of island next to the on countertop near our stove.
Okay.
So it's perfect when you put music on while you're cooking. It's right in the,
yeah, mine's in my kitchen
but
too.
it's across from our TV. It's an open floor plan. So the dining room is kind of like the dining room table is between the kitchen and the living room, and our TV's there, and it picks up stuff from the TV. And there are nights where like I'll come in and I can see, like, you know how it turns red when you turn it off?
Yeah.
And it's because like it started talking on its own, and my wife's just like, yep, I'm not gonna have an appliance talking out of nowhere. Too creepy. But no, it's pretty good. I'm corny, so I like all the knock jokes.
Yeah.
And when you can say, tell me a Donald Trump joke, and it'll dig up some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I do use it in the mornings now and again. I'll if I remember, I'll ask it to give me a traffic update, and it tells me how long it'll take me to get to work, and the weather and whatnot.
Yeah, I'll use it for the weather. I use it constantly for the shopping list because it is right in my kitchen. So I'll be making breakfast, and I'll notice something that's getting low in the fridge, and I'll just tell it to add something to the shopping list, which is insanely convenient. I use it when I'm cooking. If I forget a particular measurement, and instead of like picking up my phone with my disgusting hands that are all covered
really
with
good.
food,
Yeah, that is a cool
and I
thing.
say how many cups is in whatever, how many tablespoons is in this, it does the conversion on the fly for me, which is so nice. They're adding in functionality all the time.
Yeah.
I mostly use it as a Bluetooth speaker myself, not so much streaming, but just playing the podcast from my iPod. But I will, the new functionalities that they're adding, I used it to track my Domino's order the other day.
Oh, cool.
I used it but they've added in the function to check movie times finally.
Oh, nice.
Which is something I'm excited about. So you can set like a local theater and everything and ask what's playing or what time is a certain movie playing. It'll look it up for you. So the fact that they're continuing to expand.
Yeah. And they've opened development so people can do their own like apps.
Yes.
So one of the ones they have, it's like 20 questions, but it's like called the Animal Game.
Oh yeah,
and it's silly, but it's awesome because I've stumped it a couple times with something. But I mean, like, just see, it's a computer doing this, but just because of the logarithms that it goes through to which questions I'm going to ask next to whittle down, I've gotten it to do like armadillo, kangaroo, like weird stuff. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
It's also integrated with another site called If This Then That. I don't know if you've seen that, where you can actually program in like customizable things.
Yeah.
So I have one set up where I can ask Echo to find my phone and it will call my cell phone.
That's really cool.
So if for whatever reason I misplaced it somewhere in the house and I can't remember where I put it and it's just driving me nuts, I can say, find my phone or call my phone, and it will just ring my phone.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So
I'm totally game. The other thing is I haven't done it yet, but in the near future, I'm planning on upgrading and getting some of the lighting.
I want to do the same.
Because that's really cool. Just the ability to, and the other thing I like is that you can use your phone through the Amazon app as also like a remote control.
Yep.
So that's the other thing I like to do. I'll be in the other room and my wife will be listening to something and I start phantom DJing and I'll try to find like ridiculous stuff to come on. And then I'll mess with the volumes at first. Cause she gets bugged out when it talks on its own. So like I'll start messing with it and then, wait, are you doing that? No.
Start creeping her out.
But yeah, like I'll put on like Mana or something like that.
That's funny.
Something goofy. Yeah.
Now I live by myself, but you don't.
Yeah.
So do you have? I have no inhibitions about giving voice commands. Do you get self-conscious with that at all, or?
No, she thought it was weird at first, but no, she's right. She uses it as much as I do, as I said. So she's just, at first we left it as Alexa. So at first, and her mom was there and she's like, that's a dumb name for it. But we don't do the Amazon, whatever.
Right. Yeah, I actually changed mine back to the default.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was a little weird. And sometimes it doesn't, because there's ambient noise, there are times where it doesn't necessarily get exactly what you want.
Sure.
But no, it definitely was cool, especially getting it early and getting it for the cheaper price. And
Right.
The introductory, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Even just for having that hands free, like you said, like you got music on while you're getting ready, you're cooking, and your hands are gross, and I don't like this, or your phone rings and you can pause it. Just Alexa, pause, or we found out that Alexa, fuck off, actually works for Turner.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's funny. So even though we got it at the early stage and we got it for a cheaper price, it doesn't mean people shouldn't get it for the price it is now. Go to thegeekgeneration.com/Echo and it will take you right to the Amazon page where if you get yourself an Amazon Echo, then we get a small kickback from that. This is not a paid advertisement in any way. I was talking about the Echo simply because I love it and I created the affiliate link to make it easier for other people to get. So highly recommend you check that out.
And you too can listen to the show through your Bluetooth through
you sure can.
Amazon Echo.
You sure can. If you're listening to the podcast and you tell it to play program The Geek Generation, it will pull us off the feed on TuneIn and you can listen to the latest episode that way. You can even say next or preview or next or something like that, and you can have it go to past episodes as well too. So yep, Amazon Echo is awesome. Yes. So movies for last year, what did you enjoy? I'm
actually gonna skip a couple of things that are on my list because they were like okay, but nothing.
Okay.
We almost did an episode on Terminator Genesis.
This is true.
That was not in the Terminator. I mean, it did. I mean, I even like Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines. This didn't even live up to that in my mind. Avengers Age of Ultron, initially saw it in the theater, liked it. Have since watched it, and in comparison to other stuff I've seen, I feel it's too video game.
I'm in the same camp as you.
And I think my problem with that, it lies back in what I said earlier about TV.
Yeah.
You have Ultron, who was this great villain in the comic books.
Yeah.
And you built him and destroyed him in less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
I felt like I wanted more of that. I did a review about Krampus on the show a while back. Highly entertaining. Enjoyed that. I did see Inside Out. I know people really raved about that. And I enjoyed it. Yep. It was this year I saw it, but it was a movie from last year. One night we did just through Vudu, we did a movie rental online and watched the reboot of National Lampoon's Vacation. So it was just Vacation.
I saw that as well.
I was surprisingly entertained by it.
As was I.
I liked, they had jokes in the trailer, and I was worried that it was going to be one of those movies where all the jokes were going to be in the trailer, and it wasn't. And it was pretty much consistently funny throughout, but it still felt like a vacation movie. I was and we both like watched and were cracking up.
They hit the tone surprisingly well.
I was worried when it first came out. I was like, "Ugh, they're doing a reboot." Then I heard that it was going to be Rusty, and it was that then Clark and they were all going to show up.
Sure.
And yeah, it was cool, and I really was surprised. Saw Jurassic World in the theater opening weekend. Hadn't been crazy about a Jurassic Park movie in a long time, but had heard it's, a spectacle. There were definite weaknesses with the movie. I thought there was the whole parents getting divorced side thing that
there was some
didn't need to
weaker
be
aspects.
in there.
Sure.
But as far as just a big summer movie with awesome special effects and seeing it on the big screen, that's definitely one that seeing that like that with a great sound system rather than seeing it at home, it made a big difference. I think it was a lot more fun.
Yep.
Ant-Man totally was great.
Yeah.
And that was, again, much like Guardians of the Galaxy before it, was a movie that heading into it, I wasn't sure I really gave a crap about it. And as it got, and I was like, I'm not sold on Ant-Man. And then I got to be, maybe it was the first trailer, the last trailer they showed where they had the thing where the raging locomotives going at him. And when you realize it's really like a Thomas the Tank Engine, that comedy and the way it was shot, it made me, maybe I'll give it a shot. Movie totally was way better than I anticipated. I walked out going, wow, that was a breath of fresh air.
Agreed.
For the tone, a lot of fun.
Agreed.
So I dug that. I just saw Spectre, the James Bond one.
Sure.
I've been a fan of the Daniel Craig era of Bond. It's again kind of like, it's almost like a Christopher Nolan Bond. It's grittier and so the other day my wife gets an Amazon package and she goes, "Oh, I got you something," and I hadn't even seen it. And we usually don't go out and get movies we haven't seen, but she's just like, "I know it's we've heard it's gonna be good."
Movie,
and so we watched it the other night and it is great.
It is good,
really good, and the style it's shot in. I know it's a new movie, but just the filters on the shots and the way it feels more like an old Bond film. It's just got the way the color schemes they shot in, the spectrums they used are really cool. Obviously it's super high def with the way they shot it. The stunts, it's back to, a car that has machine guns on it. And they even have the old Aston Martin in it at one point as a real callback. It was really good, and obviously this is where they brought back Blofeld. They have the cat even makes the appearance. Batista is awesome in it. He doesn't say much, but he's just horribly nasty. He kicks such ass.
True.
Yeah, I got done. And if that's the end of Daniel Craig as Bond, what a way to go out. It was
agree.
Awesome. Really good movie. Star Wars The Force Awakens. Obviously, I'm a Star Wars kid, and have gone through and seen them all, and for good and for bad. Star Wars Force Awakens, I was in the camp of those who was not at all disappointed. I loved it. I saw it a couple times in the theater, once in 2D, the second time in 3D IMAX, and it was beautiful. And the last one, I didn't realize it was a new movie in 2015, but it was a documentary called I Am Big Bird about Carol Spinney.
Yep.
And I've been a huge Muppet fan for years. I've been to a number of events over the years, panels about Sesame Street and about its, a place in the cultural, the world of culture and education. And Carol Spinney is one of those people who is just such a genuinely good person. And he and his wife Deb are just really wonderful people. And to see that brought out in such a way, it's a movie that celebrates him as Big Bird, but to celebrate Carol Spinney, you inevitably have to celebrate his marriage with his wife, because they are inseparable. They're like love-struck teenagers who have been married for 50 years.
That's wonderful.
So it was fantastic. And I was telling Rob before, because one of the big pieces they talk about is when they filmed Big Bird Goes to China. And it was filmed guerrilla style. Like, they had minimal people, because it was really not, you couldn't send a huge, you're talking Cold War China.
Sure.
You couldn't send all these people to shoot on the Great Wall. And so they got this really small group of people together, enough where a lot of the puppeteers were also camera people. And they shot this, and they had this little girl who was the star of the movie with them. And they then lost touch with her for like 20 years, and they have a reunion with her on the film.
Oh my God.
And it's so like, and you just that when they reunite, you're just bawling your eyes out. And it's but I actually went back and watched I found you can find an entire version of Big Bird Goes to China on YouTube. So it's almost like you want to watch I Am Big Bird, because it's awesome. If you have a heart in your chest, it's a great documentary anyway.
Yeah.
But if you've been touched over the years by the Muppets and Sesame Street, totally worth watching. And then you're going to want to go back and actually watch that Big Bird Goes to China special from like the early 80s, because it's so awesome. Just to now what they went through to put it on. And as much as yes, The Force Awakens was this huge moment and I was looking forward to it for years, I almost think now in retrospect that I Am Big Bird was my favorite movie of last year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that good. It was just that emotional to watch and that really touching. Yeah, good stuff.
Cool. All right. I have my top 10 movies of 2015. I do this every year. I watch a huge amount of stuff to put this list together. I had maybe 120 movies that I was planning on watching. I got through 64. So that's about the average that I get to. I usually get in the 60 to 70 range every single year, which is a pretty decent smattering of the stuff that's come out. And whittled it down to my favorite of the 10. Now, granted, I am not saying these are the 10 best movies of the year. I am saying these are my 10 favorite movies of the year. So regardless of your argument, it really doesn't matter. This is my opinion ultimately. But this is I like doing this, so let's do it. All right, number 10. 70-year-old widower Ben Whitaker has discovered that retirement isn't all it's cracked up to be. Seizing an opportunity to get back in the game, he becomes a senior intern at an online fashion site founded and run by Jules Austin. In The Intern. Surprisingly good. I went into this was a screening that I went to, so it wasn't a movie I paid for necessarily. And I went into it not really expecting much. I thought it would be your usual fare where you have Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway, and they're going to have some sort of weird love connection, even though their age range is so different. But I ended up really enjoying it. They never go into the romantic aspect of things, so that could have easily ruined a big part of the movie. The comedy is really solid throughout. We've seen De Niro stretch his comedy chops over the last how many
I think
years
he's
now.
underrated as a comedian. Because
Yeah,
you think of how
hugely.
intense he is as a dramatic actor.
Yeah.
When he goes comedy, he's really funny.
And I think that lineage of drama that he had behind him enhances his comedy so much now.
Mm-hmm.
Because that the way people view him and then the resulting comedy that comes from that. So, yeah. Number 9. Armed with a super suit with the astonishing ability to shrink in scale but increase in strength, cat burglar Scott Lang must embrace his inner hero and help his mentor, Dr. Hank Pym, plan and pull off a heist that will save the world in Ant-Man.
That totally put Michael Pena on the. I mean, I'd see him in other stuff.
Yeah.
But he was an unexpected highlight of that movie.
I love Michael Pena.
So good.
He's so good in everything, and his performance in this borders on the stereotypically offensive.
Yeah, and that was a big criticism for him.
Yeah. He walks a fine line, but it's ultimately entertaining, and that's what matters.
He was in Grace Point. He is a very serious, very dramatic role in Grace Point.
Really?
With David Tennant. So that's one of those things, and you can binge watch because there's not a ton of episodes.
It's like 10 or something.
Yeah. That's one of those. If you're looking for something interesting, it takes a little time to take off. But yeah, I mean, if you like Michael Pena, and I know you like David Tennant, and it's really. I mean, it's a complete take because that's where I'm seeing Michael Pena. I'm saying, why do I know this guy? And he was like really funny. And then I realized, it was from that, but he was so serious and in such a dramatic role. It was completely night and day.
And Ant-Man, like we were saying, was kind of a breath of fresh air. It was something slightly different than the Marvel formula. Edgar Wright's influences are still present, even if he wasn't by the end of it. So it was nice to see a movie take a different take. It was a heist movie that happened to have superheroes in it, which is always nice. Number 8, the story of Jack, a spirited 5-year-old who was looked after by his loving and devoted mother. Their life, however, is anything but typical as they are confined to a windowless 10 by 10 foot space that Ma has named Room. I just saw this.
It's on my upcoming list. I'm going to see it at some point this week.
Oh my God.
Is it good?
It's really good.
I mean, it's your top 10 list.
Yeah.
I know Howard Stern has raved about it as well. And
Brie Larson's performance is awesome. And even though when Stern was raving about it, I don't know if he mentioned the kid that plays Jack. Unbelievable for someone his age.
It's definitely, I'm surprised I didn't see it the other night. Like literally it was in my lineup of things I was going to watch. By the end of this week, I will have seen it. I can't wait. It really looks interesting.
The second half of the movie is not what I expected.
Really?
But not unwelcome.
Nice.
It's more than you think it is.
Good. I like when things aren't just blatantly predictable.
Yeah. Very enjoyable. Cool. Not saying it has like any weird sci-fi because it doesn't. No. It's just it goes in other places that I didn't think the movie would go. It could have ended at a certain point after like an hour, but it kept going, and I'm glad it did.
Good.
So really solid.
Yeah, I'm looking
movie.
forward to that.
Number 7. In 1947, Dalton Trumbo was Hollywood's top screenwriter until he and other artists were jailed and blacklisted for their political beliefs. In Trumbo, this was, I believe Bryan Cranston is nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Trumbo, and he might deserve it because he was outstanding in this movie. He's over 60 now, I believe, but at certain points in this movie plays like a much more feeble elderly man. And does it with surprising accuracy, not only in just his delivery of lines, his mannerisms, the makeup's fantastic to even just make him look a little bit older than he needs to be. Very interesting. When something is based on a true story too, and there are ties to real life, like Trumbo won 2 Academy Awards for movies that he was not credited for because it was under a ghostwriter's name.
Right.
So it's amazing to see kind of that story unfold. Now, granted, it's probably not 100% true because it's based on, and we know how they can skew facts and change them and kind of sometimes merge things together. We've seen things based on true story where they take multiple characters and make them into one.
Right. Yeah.
So it could have gone any of those certain ways, but I love when a movie based on a true story, in the credits, they kind of show the footage of the actual scenes that they were recreating in the movie. That is always endlessly fascinating to me. And it was wonderful to see. The story itself is wonderful. And Cranston is
he's the man. I
exceptional
love
in this
Bryan
movie.
Cranston.
Yeah.
I mean, always a huge fan from Malcolm in the Middle. He was ridiculous as the father.
Yep.
And like you rooted for him. He was like that poor sad sack father.
Yeah.
He was always, and then for him to go from that to Breaking Bad.
Yep.
I mean, wow, that's if you only did Breaking Bad, if that's the only thing he did, it's a body of work that you could be proud of.
Totally.
And now he's doing great stuff with movies.
Continues to knock it out of the park. Number 6, a young programmer is selected to participate in a groundbreaking experiment in synthetic intelligence by evaluating the human qualities of a breathtaking humanoid AI in Ex Machina. Did you see it?
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. I'm seeing it soon.
So good.
Howard can't stop talking about how hot.
Alicia Vikander, yes.
He's just like, she's so hot.
There is a full frontal nude scene with Alicia Vikander. And
he said, she's been naked in every movie that she's in.
Pretty much. But everything, this is a movie of pretty much 3 people.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's Donald Gleason as the lead, who was Hux and Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
You get another guy from Star Wars The Force Awakens because Oscar Isaacs, the guy who played Poe Dameron,
he's in there, right?
is like the eccentric billionaire who created the robot. And then you get Alicia Vikander as the robot. And there's like one other character that's in the house, like a housekeeper type thing. She's not a huge role in the movie, but the other 3, it's a movie about these like 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a classic sci-fi tale done in a modern style. So most sci-fi movies now are so action and whatever.
Yeah.
This one is more an exploration of the human condition, which good sci-fi does real well.
Definitely.
So Ex Machina, number 6. Number 5, Adam Jones is a chef who destroyed his career with drugs and diva behavior. He cleans up and returns to London, determined to redeem himself by spearheading a top restaurant that can gain him 3 Michelin stars. Burnt. Just recently geeked out about it on the podcast. Love Bradley Cooper. Really into all these chef movies.
Yeah.
This was, I actually just rewatched Chef recently too, the other day with Jon Favreau.
I love that.
It's such a great movie.
Awesome.
Yeah. But this is, while Chef focused on kind of the father-son relationship through the medium of that chef experience in food, Burnt does the same thing, but like I mentioned before, focuses on sacrificing for greatness and keeping track of the things in life that are important to you. So it's almost the same kind of idea, slightly different characters. I think Bradley Cooper's character is a little more screwed up than Jon Favreau's was. Right. He just had his priorities out of sort, whereas Bradley Cooper has like some pretty significant things in his past that he needs to deal with. But just as powerful a movie. If Chef was better, I would say out of the 2. But Burnt is, if you liked Chef, you will like Burnt.
It's kind of a documentary, but if you like those sort of food-centered stories, Jiro Dreams of Sushi. That was, I don't know if you've seen that one.
I have not.
It's about this little old man who basically that's his life, sushi, and he's a grandmaster of making sushi. But it's a really interesting tale about how he's gotten into this, and now he has this crazy little restaurant that sits like 5 people, and you pay ridiculous amounts of money not to order your sushi, but for him to decide what he's going to make that night and serve it to you.
Interesting.
Really, and people like wait for months to get on the list.
Wow.
So I mean, if you like Chef, and it certainly sounds like it's a documentary, so it is actually true. It's pretty cool. It sort of falls in that same sort of genre of movie.
I'll add it to my list. Number 4. 3 decades after the defeat of the Galactic Empire, a new threat arises. The First Order attempts to rule the galaxy, and only a ragtag group of heroes can stop them, along with the help of the Resistance. Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Chewie, we're home.
I imagine most people are surprised that this is at number 4 and not at like my number 1 for the year. I do love The Force Awakens. It's number 4 on my list, but there were other releases that came out this year that I enjoyed more.
Yeah, that was definitely, I mean, Star Wars, I think that as a standalone film was terrific. As a nostalgia, as returning to the franchise, terrific.
Oh yeah.
But when you really look at it big picture and removed from the moment, like for the weekend, when I saw it a couple times in the first week, I was just in the moment.
As was I, wrapped up in the tornado.
Yeah, and now that I've given it some time to breathe, I still loved it. I'm not worrying about. I'm not going to get picky about what I think was maybe, or people have said regurgitated from the first storyline.
Sure.
From New Hope, but cinematically it was great. But there were other movies that I thought maybe did it better, or just had better movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Star Wars: The Force Awakens, what
another
a trip!
I didn't even bring it up, and it's not in my top 3 movies, but you guys didn't like, and I did, was Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah,
that was one that I saw, and I thought cinematically, that's another thing, just this big cinematic picture, which I sort of equate with The Force Awakens.
Cinematically, I give it props for what it accomplished.
But I know why. I understand what the white knuckle feeling.
Yes.
Yeah,
it wasn't a good experience for me. I can say it's a good movie, but it wasn't a good experience for me.
And it made total sense. You completely had a great argument on that. Yeah.
Number 3. After young Riley is uprooted from her Midwest life and moved to San Francisco, her emotions, joy, fear, anger, disgust, and sadness conflict on how best to navigate a new city, house, and school in Pixar's Inside Out. What an emotional movie this is. Yep. And that's to say that with multiple meanings.
Yeah, definitely.
Emotional for us.
For the plot.
And emotional for the plot. Yeah. This movie was unexpectedly good.
Yeah. I think their whole sort of allusion of how a child changes and the internal just raging emotions that go through adolescence, heading into puberty and into adolescence, and just that make up who you are.
Yeah.
Just the way they characterize that, and like with the little islands, that it was really a creative look at that. We'd seen something when I first saw the trailer, I said, oh, they've made a kid's version and Pixar is not a kid's movie, but they made a kid's version of Herman's Head.
Yeah.
Way better, way more creative, I really feel more accurate as to kind of what those emotions are like when they rage inside you. Yes, they characterize them and, made anamorphic kind of versions of emotions. But, when you think about just how kids are and how they shift and how, you can have a kid go from happy-go-lucky to tantruming to sullen in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was, wow, that's really a pretty accurate depiction of what
their
goes on.
understanding of child psychology was unparalleled. Like, they would have had to bring in actual psychologists to really understand the nuances of the emotions at play. And I think it hits everyone at a core level because they're tapping into universal experience.
Right.
In the sense that, we were all kids. So we all knew that time of, well, not every single kid, unfortunately, gets the experiences of unbridled joy as a child, but a lot of us that are lucky enough to be able to see movies like this do know that. So tapping into that, as well as I think I said originally when we talked about the movie, was it felt like, whereas most Pixar movies are a kid's movie where they bring in adult things to keep us invested, this felt like a movie made for our age where they worked in some kid jokes to keep them invested.
Right, because your niece and nephew, you took them to see it, right?
Right, and their takeaway was sadness falls on her face a lot.
Right, they got the slapstick, like that, but it was really deep.
Yeah,
that was the thing. It was very deep.
Yeah, and if Bing Bong doesn't get you, you're not a human being.
Right.
You're not a human. Number 2. The former world heavyweight champion Rocky Balboa serves as a trainer and mentor to Adonis Johnson, the son of his late friend and former rival, Apollo Creed.
Yes.
Creed was the example that all franchises should look at instead of rebooting, instead of doing prequels. You should look at Creed and say, this is how you take a beloved property, you create something new and exciting, and you give it a way to move forward. Now, granted, they could stop right here. They could have, but they won't because it was popular enough to keep moving forward. Right. And that's fine because this movie was created as a bridge. And yet, as a bridge, wasn't treated as solely a bridge. And I think that's where it becomes as good a movie as it is. Because standing alone, it's a wonderful movie by itself. You
didn't need to really be familiar with this. They gave you enough of who Rocky Balboa was if you've lived in a closet and didn't know who he was. What I did like is, I personally liked Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
That movie.
I did too, actually.
And if they had only done that, you know, and didn't go to this, that would have been fine. But I liked how, even though that was included, that's still part of the story. So, Rocky is now a restaurateur and he's running Adrian's.
Yes.
And I liked how that was still, as soon as I saw that, I said, oh, that's great. They're keeping that around.
Yep.
And I liked the choice with how, that Adonis wasn't, he wasn't Felicia Rashad's kid.
Right.
He was sort of that dirty secret that, Apollo had another kid from a different woman.
Yeah.
But troubled kid, basically, orphaned, and Felicia Rashad, as the wife, brings him in into her family and takes him up because her deceased husband did have a son, and it is a piece of her husband. And I thought that they really did well with how they developed, how Michael B. Jordan was awesome.
Unbelievable.
He really did. And at times he had that little bit of Carl Weathers in him with just the way he reacted. You could see a little bit of that Apollo Creed character you remembered.
Yeah.
And yeah, everybody's saying that Stallone could be up for. I know he's nominated.
Sure.
That if he won, I'd love to see Bryan Cranston win it. But at the same time, who wouldn't want to see?
Although Stallone's up for supporting, Cranston's up for lead.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so great, they both can win.
Yeah.
But he absolutely. It would be a feel good story for him to come back and win that award, especially for the role that brought him to prominence originally.
And Hollywood loves those stories, so absolutely. I think he wins.
Yeah.
Not only based on performance, but on
longevity.
Yeah, totally.
Great movie. I wouldn't say it was my favorite movie of the year, but that's not taking away anything from it. It was definitely. I think it would have been. We had talked before that there was a lot of hype on it, and I think the hype hurt it from me. I had a lot of people just saying, "Forget The Force Awakens. This is the greatest movie of the year," and I really enjoyed it. But for me, as much as I loved the Rocky franchise and I loved them over the years, for me, the feel goods of Star Wars, that was way more of my youth. I was allowed to see that sort of sci-fi violence. It wasn't until I was in like 15, 16 that my mom was not crazy about like more realistic violence. That was always sort of, so a boxing movie was like, and especially glorified boxing where they're punching each other in the face even more. So I wasn't until I was like 14, 15 that I saw all those Rocky movies and I love them. But for me, when you want that nostalgia piece of it, Star Wars, a lot of people had a different nostalgia level with Creed than I did.
For me, and this might be surprising, is I have almost zero nostalgia level with Rocky.
Okay.
I saw the first Rocky movie within the last 7 or 8 years, and saw Rocky Balboa. I've not seen the others.
And see, that's the thing. Rocky 3 is actually really good. And Rocky 4, that's with Dolph Lundgren. They're good movies.
Yeah.
And they're they get you pumped up to watch them. But just, I definitely liked that they had the emotions. There was definitely some times where you get that, now's where you're going to go into the, okay.
Right.
Okay. Or just, Stallone sitting at the grave of Paulie and Adrian and reading the newspaper and talking to them.
Yep.
There was a lot of that stuff that was, there was the feels, but it, again, not a bad movie at all.
Yeah,
It's a great movie, just wasn't my favorite of the year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, wasn't my favorite either because
obviously something else was.
Number 1. During a manned mission to Mars, astronaut Mark Watney is presumed dead after a fierce storm and left behind by his crew, but Watney has survived and finds himself stranded and alone on the hostile planet. With only meager supplies, he must draw upon his ingenuity, wit, and spirit to subsist and find a way to signal to Earth that he is alive in Ridley Scott's The Martian. Loved this movie. So much done well. For a movie of its length, paced incredibly well. I was never bored during the movie whatsoever. And really unique in a movie of this scale to where the enemy is not a person that you can punch in the face.
Right.
It's a series of problems that require your wits and ingenuity to solve. And I love that. My favorite characters and everything are the smart ones. I love Donatello. I love Batman.
Right.
Like, I like the smart guys. And The Martian is the smart guy winning, kind of reaching against all odds and accomplishing tasks that should not be able to be accomplished. And maybe can't if you were to go into real science, which I'm told the book does go into a lot of, to almost an exhausting degree, some of the science behind this stuff. And I'm glad that they left all of that out of the movie, but gave enough to really justify all the things that we did see. Matt Damon is unbelievable in this movie because it really does rest on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Given the fantastic cast that's in it, and there's a lot of wonderful actors in this movie. It really is a showcase for Matt Damon, and he steps up to the plate big time here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's I've heard no one I've talked to has had a negative thing to say about it or had a bad experience where they said they didn't at least enjoy it. And everybody, most people have raved about it, put it in their at least top 5 of the year who have seen it.
Sure.
So.
Well, I hope my hype does not.
Yeah, I know.
does not ruin it for you in any way.
There you go, Rob. You ruined it already. That's your number 1 movie. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know. I'm a terrible person. So there's my number 10, top 10 of the year. If you haven't seen any of those movies, I highly recommend that you go check them out. Before we sign off for this episode, just a couple quick things in regards to the Geek Generation last year, where there was a lot of things that we accomplished. Some things didn't necessarily go as planned, but we started the second podcast with Random Movie Club. And although we intended it to continue going, I don't know what the status of it is right now. We have about 13 or 14 episodes out there. We need to finish off and do Return of the Jedi still to finish off our Star Wars stuff that didn't go as planned. I have another one in the can beyond that. And going further, it's a time commitment. If you guys want more Random Movie Club, I need to be able to afford to do it. And that means just because stuff is free doesn't mean it doesn't cost us on this end. So if I'm going to keep doing Random Movie Club, that means that I need time to make those things happen, which means I need to be able to make money in things other than my day job, which means the geekgeneration.com/support. You can help us out on Patreon. You can use the Amazon links, all the things that help us out. You can watch and donate on the Twitch channel. However you can help out, we generally greatly appreciate it. Also, cons and interviews from last year. I went to San Diego Comic-Con for the 2nd year. I went to New York Comic-Con for I think the 5th or 6th year. PAX East last year, Boston Comic-Con, Rhode Island Comic-Con, and then my first time at ITV Fest, which was way better than I expected it to be, and I will be going back in a bigger capacity this year. We did some fantastic interviews with people like Rebecca Romaine, John Larroquette, Terry Brooks, Poppy Drayton, Troy Baker, Phil Lamar, Al Goff, Miles Miller, Laura Vandervoort, Bruce Timm, Andrea Romano, Paget Brewster, John DiMaggio, Roger Craig Smith, Will Friedle, and the Impractical Jokers. And that wasn't even everybody. Right. So we had a pretty epic year last year as far as our con going went.
Yeah, I actually went to my first Comic-Con last year. Although I had previously, as I alluded in a previous episode, I went to the one and only X-Files con that they did, which was really cool, actually. But this was my first proper Comic-Con, if you want to. And this year it was Providence Comic-Con. Rhode Island Comic-Con was bigger and multiple rooms, and I got to check out some panels, meet some cool people, and spent way too much money.
That generally happens.
Yeah. But no, it was a good experience. And for me to have a positive experience off of that, I know people previously had not at other ones. It opens my interest. It piques my interest to go to other cons in different areas and to check out other places. And now if I had fun there, when I'm hearing from people that, if you've been there and you like that, you got to see New York or you got to see San Francisco, it definitely opens that door of interest for me, to check them out.
We even made some con magic last year at Rhode Island Comic-Con.
Yeah. I just held the camera. You did all the work and it was awesome.
That was a lot of fun. If people have not seen that, head on over to thegeekgeneration.com/YouTube. That'll bring you right to our YouTube channel. There was a video that Matt filmed and that I took part in where I asked Will Friedle and Kevin Conroy to reenact a scene from The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, it was so great.
As Vader and Luke, but doing it as Bruce Wayne and Terry McGinnis.
And they as soon as they got where you wanted, once they knew what the bit was.
Yeah.
Some of them would have either not done it, and they went balls to the wall with it. They did it and they got into it, and you could tell that they were like, oh, this kid's got a good idea. Like they totally went for it. It was awesome.
Were having fun, which is ultimately what I wanted.
Yeah.
So really enjoyed that.
I loved that. That was great.
Looking forward to the upcoming con season. It's right around the corner. We're going to be going to cons real soon again. So I hope to see all of you out there. Make sure to stop me and say hi if you do. As we wrap up this week and the end of our 2015 wrap up, any final thoughts or something you'd like to plug?
You can follow me on the Twitter at MaddDogMattStorm. feel free to send me stuff there. I make rude comments now and again and comment on the world as I see it. Sometimes I'll put some interesting pictures up. I just started a new Instagram following that name, so there's not much on there. My personal Instagram's boring. You don't want to follow that. Only people who know me would be interested on that. But 2015, as awesome as it was, 2016 is looking pretty good. There's some really, I mean, we're going to see Batman versus Superman.
We are.
We're going to see Suicide Squad.
We are.
We're going to see
Civil
Spider-Man on the same screen as Captain America and Iron Man.
We are.
I mean, it's like, it's just awesome.
It just keeps.
And another Star Wars film at the end of the year.
That's right.
Rogue Squad.
Every year the ante just keeps getting increased.
Yeah,
the geeks are taking over more and more with every consecutive year.
Luke Cage.
So much.
Daredevil 2.
So much. To see everything else we do, head on over to thegeekgeneration.com. If you use iTunes, please rate the show and write a review. We always appreciate those. You can follow us at thegeekgeneration.com. You can follow us at thegeekgeneration.com/Facebook and at Geek Generation on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at The Night Angel. You can watch our live podcasts and gaming at twitch.tv/thegeekgeneration. You can support the show by going to thegeekgeneration.com/support. Send emails to podcast@thegeekgeneration.com. And as always, the show theme is provided by Machine Supremacy. A link to their site can also be found on our site. We'll be back real soon with more geekiness for you, and we will see you then. Later.
Make it so.